Thanks for staying with us on the program, and this is the second discussion segment. On this segment, we shall be looking at the prolonged ASU strike and the matters arising. We all know that NASU and SANU have promised to suspend the strike, although commencing tomorrow, Wednesday. But ASU is still holding on and saying that we are still on strike until all our demands are met. We will be looking at these issues, and to discuss these matters with me in the studio, I have Mr. Tony Akoe. You're welcome.
Thank you.
He is a veteran journalist, so we shall be discussing these matters together. SANU and NASU agreed to suspend strike action, though commencing on Wednesday, that's tomorrow. But ASU is still holding its ground, standing its ground that every other thing that it has demanded for must be met. How will you react to that?
Well, thank you very much. The first thing we should note is that the strike by SANU and NASU is different from the strike of ASU.
Exactly.
Now, even though the demands are related, but each of the unions have their own demand. SANU and NASU, they have a joint demand. They operate under the Joint Action Congress. So they have their own demands, and ASU had their own demands. The issues with the ASU demand date back, way back to 2009 agreement. Part of this agreement is the fact that government will make certain amount of money available annually to fund the universities, infrastructural development in the universities, and there's also the aspect of what they call end allowance. And this end allowance is like excess load that the lecturers carry, and the government is owing them. And one of the major thrusts of the strike had been the mode of payment for salary payment. The government is insisting that it wants to use the integrated payroll system. As we say, no, these IPs, yes, we have our own system, we have developed our own system, and we want to be paid using this system. Reason being that the argument is that the IPs, there are certain things in the university sector that IPs did not cover. So the lecturers felt these things should be covered. For example, they go on sabbatical, they have research grants, there are other grants that that are covered by this, they are covered with that, are not captured they are not captured under the IPs. And so they felt they needed to design their own platform. And there's been going back and forth between government and ASU. The NITDA needed to test, okay, let's test the quality, how compatible will this system be. They faulted it, ASU had faulted what the NITDA came out with, and there's been this back and forth. And government says that we have reached agreement on most of these demands, and ASU has also agreed that they have reached agreement on most of these demands. But the major thrust now is the payment of salaries, backlog of salaries, because
which the government is insisting that no work, no pay.
The government is saying we are going to implement the law, because the no work, no pay is not just a policy statement, it's a law. It's a law that is an existing law. It's part of the the labor laws of the country.
Okay, that means it's enshrined in the labor law.
It's enshrined in the labor law.
It's not just like one of those policy statements that government makes.
No, it is not a policy statement. It is a law.
So, which means ASU, varsity workers, are actually aware of this.
They are aware of it. If the lecturers themselves are not aware, the union leaders are aware that there is a law like this in place. Government has implemented this law on medical doctors. They've implemented these laws on nurses, special health workers. They've implemented it. I remember that in 2018 or 19, thereabout, when the joint health sector unions went on strike for 2 months, the government implemented the no work, no pay. It was only in December, even last year, 2020, when the resident doctors went on strike, they also implemented that law, no work, no pay. But in December, the president now said, okay, in the spirit of the Yuletide, the backlog of salaries should be paid back to the health workers, and that has actually been done, paid back to them. But the law was implemented on them, And so if the government is insisting now that no work, no pay, it's a law that is in existence that the government wants to implement. But they can actually waive it. The government can actually waive it, decide not to implement that law.
Okay, you are saying that the government can actually waive it. That means ASUU should have its way, all the way, the 9 yards, 100%.
Well, I don't know what the negotiation has been, but I'm sure that throughout the negotiation period, there's been a give and take in it all. But in what has always been the fact, there has always been that after all said and done, after all negotiation, there has always been this clause in the agreement that, okay, those who took part in this strike will not be penalized for being part of the strike. I think that is what ASUU wants to be part of the agreement. But once you put that clause in the agreement, then the no work, no pay policy will not apply. ASUU wants that. I think ASUU wants that clause in the agreement now, and we will not be penalized for taking part in this agreement. And the government is saying, no, you cannot eat your cake and have it. You've been home for 6 months. You've not taught the student for 6 months. So there's no justification, no moral justification for us paying you for these 6 months that you have been at home. They are human beings, no doubt. They also have children in the system. All of us have children in the system, and it affects all of us. But morally speaking, do you actually deserve that wage when you have not worked for it? Yes, there's an argument that they've been conducting research. Fine. That research enriched the system. The research enriched what they're going to teach the student. That is where the government can give them a consideration. Okay, you are still going to teach our children. As we're talking about the fact that, okay, if you don't pay us, we will not go back. There is no way you go back and teach what you are. The truth of the matter is that there are universities that have not even started a new academic session. Now, they have not lost anything. The only thing they have lost is the period. Yeah. In terms of academic work, they haven't lost any academic work. They've only lost ground. A student who is supposed to graduate in 2022 will now have to wait in 2023 to graduate. That's just the implication. What you are still going to teach the student, when you the student will lose 1 academic year. The person who is in 200 level now will still be in 200 level when the strike is called off. He will not go to 300 level because he has lost 6 months. You will not take him to 300 level. He will still be in 200 level.
Now let's look at these incessant strikes, because this will not be the first time ASUU will go on strike. ASUU, every other sector wants to go on strike. How has it impacted on the education system? Because we see these things keep happening. Does it add any value to the nation's educational system?
You see, strike all over the world now is a labor tool for enhanced welfare, for enhanced condition of service, for enhanced working environment.
What about the students? What about the product of this system?
The idea behind the insistence has always been that, okay, we want a better system. We want a better system. If you go, to be fair to the academic staff, if you go to the universities today, the oldest journal in the departmental library may be 2015. They may not even have, there are libraries that don't even have a textbook of 2020 that was published in 2015. They have outdated journals. You see, when you do research, the research laws allow you to use research materials that are not older than 10 years. Now you have journals and textbooks in the libraries of the universities that are older than some of us. The ideas in those books no longer exist. Yeah, you still need them to guide the current one. But there is this need to educate, upgrade, keep upgrading the system, keep upgrading the labs, keep upgrading the library, keep upgrading the knowledge. Yes, you might talk, okay, the students have lost ground. Like I said, it's only the time that the students have lost. If you still go, in spite of the rot in the system, I'm still confident that what we have in the federal, in the public universities are still better than many of the private universities. Products of private universities can, like in mass communication, some products of private universities can hardly write a news story for you. But in the public universities, they make sure you do this. They teach you, at least with the little they have, they still teach you. So, when they adopt strike, in most cases, it's because they felt pushed to the wall. So we need to fight back. We need to fight back. That's why they go on strike. Well, many of us have always argued that it's all about the welfare. Everybody who works, the Holy Book says the worker deserves his wage.
Yeah, exactly.
If I have to spend the little that I'm earning, again, to buy material that I need to teach, then there is no need for it.
One of their demands also is that they want an end to proliferation of private institutions. And how do you see that happening?
Well, that is not a possibility. Because the moment the government has liberalized the system, when the government liberalized the system and started granting private licenses, there is a law backing it up. Now, you will be trampling on the right, on my right, to own a private school. If you say government should no longer award us a license, people licenses to establish private universities. But what I think they are actually against is not the proliferation of, but there should be quality control.
Exactly, because it's actually mentioned by politicians and
state governors these days. State governor, because he wants to make a political point, will wake up and start a state university in his village when the one existing has not been properly funded. Now, if these things are properly funded, there's no, because we every year we have over 1 million students who are qualified to gain admission, and what do we take? We take less than 500,000 every year still up to today. And what happened to the other 500 or 1 million students that start for JAMB and are qualified to be there? What happened to them? So we need the institutions, but let there be quality control. And let state governments who are establishing universities here and there fund the existing ones. They've not even given them some. Go to some universities. Students don't even have a desk to sit on. They stand to take lectures in the theaters are not there.
And when it comes to exams, you see them crowded.
They are crowded to take exam and all that. So this is what they also want. They are not really saying don't establish 1 million universities, but let there be quality control. Take care of the ones you have. And then the ones that you have, government, take care of them. This idea of people who are in government using process to obtain licenses for private universities should also stop. If we don't stop that, then the system will keep going down. As long as the system keeps going down, people who are in government, because they know I'm going to establish my own university, will keep frustrating the efforts to fund the public universities. And I also think that alumnus of this university should also rise up. Every university in Nigeria today has one in the governing council. The alumni is represented in the governing council. What are they also contributing to the system? What are they bringing to this? You pass through this institution. There's nothing wrong if you go to a bookshop, buy one textbook, and send to the university, your department. You may not send it to the general library in the university, but send to your departmental library. Oh, I passed through this place. As a way of saying thank you, I bought this textbook and send it to the university. It's part of funding.
All right, Tony, I would like to ask you this. I know you're a parent, right? And for us to round up this program, you're a parent. So as a parent, what will be your call on ASUU? Because we have our children at home, we have students at home, and we know what happens when young people are at home doing nothing.
Well, the general appeal has always been that ASUU should have a reconsideration and call off the strike and go back to school so that the children can go back to school. And that's the appeal I will also make. I have at the back of your mind. Okay, it's always you win some and you lose some. Exactly. So if a law is going to be implemented, what needs to be done at this stage is not being dogmatic. It's to appeal to the conscience of those in authority. because there is an existing law that is being implemented. If you don't implement the law, then implementing it on others before will be injustice. If you don't implement it now, those who will go on strike tomorrow, you will not have the moral justification to implement it.
All right. Thank you very much for being part of the program. We've been discussing matters arising concerning the prolonged ASUU strike, and there's a law of no work, no pay. So on this ground, there's an appeal for ASUU to shift its ground. Why? Because you don't win in all cases. You win some and you lose some. So it is an appeal that ASUU should shift ground so that students can go back to school. Once again, thank you, Tony Okoye, for making this program an interesting one. And this is where we call it a day till we come your way again tomorrow for another fresh package of the program. Please do enjoy the rest of your day. I am Charity Tanko.